Hi everybody. I am making my first video called Watercolor with Pam on Leaves. I thought this might be a fun, easy project to do for your first time. Laid out a few leaves here. We're going to try to make, eventually, this card. So, what I wanted to talk about in looking at this card, there are 3 leaves. You can pick whatever leaves you want, but we're going to really only paint one, but I'm going to show you how to draw a few leaves. First comes the maple. The maple leaf, in my book, comes in many different shapes, sizes, colors. These have dried some since I've got them, but I just wanted you to take note of the many different shapes on them. There we go. Pulled a bunch of them I have. This is really more your traditional one right here. It hasn't got quite as many points as, say, this one. You're going to see it has lots and lots of little points, a little harder to draw. This one, I am not sure if it's a maple leaf. Anybody knows if it's what exactly it is, let me know, but I believe it's in the maple leaf family. And it looks more like a star and only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, but it's jagged. And then there's one like this, and it comes way down. But this one to me is your most traditional look. So we're going to do that one. And what you need for this project today is a pencil and a piece of paper to practice your drawing on. And then later, you're going to need some watercolor paper. And we're going to do just one leaf. So if you've got some spare watercolor paper or something you can practice on before you do your card, that would be great. But so the first leaf I want to practice drawing is the maple. That is the one we're going to actually paint as well. So I played around with the maple a lot when I tried to learn how. And I hope you can see my line here. You've got a line down. All the main veins start right at this point. So we're going to keep that stem. And we're going to kind of go 1, 2. So 1, 2, there's your 3 pieces. And it looks like this one maybe go a little higher than those 2. This one, I kind of call it a smiley face. And bring it out. Now, later you can draw like some of mine. You'll see I have extra little dips in them, but for the ease of learning the first time, I would do this leaf. I call this either a W or a J. For that first, you're going to come and go up, and then you're going to come to that point, and you're going to come and go that way. So it kind of looks like a W, kind of like a J. Going to do the same thing on this side. Looks like some of them can be a little longer. Some can go down lower. And the last one is really not much of a J, but I'm going to bring it out like that. Okay? And then it's just connecting the dots. And you go down, and you go up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And then you're going to take this one point here and you're going to bring it kind of like the rest of your smiley face up to there. That's the basis for the maple leaf. From there, you can draw more veins. So this vein was going to go here. We can draw one, go to each side. And then there's always veins that go to there. And you can see that if I flip it over, this one seems to draw a bunch of them, but this vein here kind of comes in the middle here. So, but I don't draw that in the first one. And then from this one, you can draw to this little scoop down there. So that's your basic maple leaf, okay? The next leaf that was on here was an oak. And I'm going to draw him. I'm going to kind of move him I should have put him down lower, but I didn't. I'm going to take this one. Oaks can be different. I used to think they were real symmetrical, but they're not. This one goes so on. I even have a really little one here. Get my hands on it. And there's a bunch of oak. Those are kind of like one type. There's red oak, there's white oak, there's you name it. And then there's this type of an oak, which again reminds me of the maple, but basically the same idea, going real down low with these little points. But for the picture, I'm going to be simple, and I'll leave my oak lay there for now. And we're going to do this oak. And I like to do this in V's. One there, one out. See, that's your wide one. And go one more. And like this little guy, he's got a little one down here. You could do another little one. You can when you go out in the woods, you're going to see some different things. And then you just go around and you can mirror this side if you want, but you've seen that they didn't mirror there, or this one was shorter. You could make this one bigger. You could make this one go in. But there is your oak leaf, okay? And they just get a little simpler. And the third one, I have heard this one with all different names. So I'm going to draw it later, but I've got one that's real fat. I've got one that's skinny. There's little ridges on this one. There's big ridges on that one. And I've got one that doesn't have ridges at all. I believe this is a beech. I think there's an aspen possibly. I can't remember all the names of the ones that he gave me. But that one is about as simple as it comes. And it's just going to be a line. And then you can make him as fat. Or give him some character. You can come in and so he looks like he's kind of laying there. Or you can just do him just like he looks here, straight as can be. Those are the 3 leaves for today's lesson, because that's what we're going to draw eventually. Now I'm going to show you, I'm just going to paint the first part. And another time we'll come back, I'll give you the instructions how to do the rest, but practice on your paper. So for instance, here, we're going to draw my card. This card is going on a 5x7. I usually cut it a little smaller so that it fits, just because I'm wasting a lot of paper here, but this is how big that picture is going to be. Okay, that's my watercolor. So I want this first leaf to take a big portion of it. So we're just going to draw that maple leaf like so. And if you recall, everything's coming from this point. So we're going to go up, up, and kind of a smile. He might be a little close here. I don't know. And then we're going to draw our J's. Might want to bring that one out a little bit so he comes out just a little bit. Okay. And then we'll connect them. Come down here, come down there. So that is what we're going to paint. He's a little, I probably would say when you do this V, go out a little bit more that way. But that's going to be the practice part of laying it out. So that's your first one. Then we're going to take this one here, and you can, if you have leaves, you can, but you can see I'm just going to kind of look like hiding it. I want it to get into most of where the leaf is. I don't want to see any of the bottom of it when I draw. So I'm just going to come up, and he's going to fit right in there. And that would be where he would be. Okay? And the last one is your oak, and you're going to draw him down. You're going to put a V and a big V and another V, and he's going to just kind of get hidden in here. And we're going to pretend this is all leaf down here. This is just going to be, he's a wide part. Some of those were wide because we don't want to you could bring him down a little bit that way. We're going to get to this point. We could actually maybe make this J a little bigger so that there's less brown. We could bring him in a little bit if you want to see less brown showing when you're drawing. That's your basic drawing. And I think he looks pretty good. I practiced a couple times. I practiced a lot of times, but I'm going to make this V a little bit more out on him. And I'm not going to draw it real dark if I can help it, because I want to erase him. Because once you put color on, your watercolor on, I'm going to leave that one alone for right now. Well, I guess I can't. I'll come down here. Gotta come. I want to get you out of my camera view. And there's the maple. And I'm going to leave that sit there. I'm going to draw all of my card because I want him all drawn. I might draw, I'm going to try to get my yellow one over a little bit so when my green one comes in, I don't feel my oak. I might even do this to help get a little more perspective where I want him to be. Okay. And then he comes down. We have another one there. He's coming right here. I don't want that, okay? And the reason I don't want it is I want to have as much touching. So we're going to erase that one. And we're going to pretend there's another line that he came down into that one. So this will all be brown between that point and that point. Okay? Card's ready to go. All right. So now the watercolor. I have clean but dirty water, mainly for the demonstration. It helps a lot to help you guys. This is a number 3. You could do a little bigger one. I think I had a 6 out earlier. Here's a little bigger one, a 6. We'll probably jump to a little bigger one. And my paint colors are going to be out of my paint colors. And it's going to be this yellow, which gets real bright. I have a cadmium. If you don't have this one, you can mix yellow and brown to get a little darker yellow. My red, some orange, and a brown. Basic. So it's a yellow. Oh, and a green. You'll need green. We're only going to do this one because it has to dry in between, and I just want you to learn the basics of the watercolor. Maybe another time if you want more, I can do that. You can't probably see that color, so what I'm going to do is get my yellow in there so you can see that I am making this wet. I'm not going all the way to the point because I don't want to touch it at this point. Oh, I did forget one thing before you paint. Do try to erase a little bit so it's not quite so dark. I will show you like here on my oak. I'll figure a way to fix that later, but you can barely see it. I'll lift it closer to the camera so possibly. You can barely see it, but you'll be able to see it, and it will help you later when you're painting. Not to have to erase all those lines. But anyway, it's too late. I don't want to rub on it because it will just get funny. And I can always show you something else to do with that. So my yellow, my leaf is all wet. It's shiny. It's kind of a little puddly. Okay. Now I'm going to make my paint just a little bit thicker on my brush. So I'm really seeing that yellow. And I'm going to do this half You could have erased your vein lines as well. That's up to you. It's not going to matter much because you're going to paint over them, so that part won't matter. All right, so it's kind of, I don't know if you can see how sloppy that is. I get into my water and I clean my brush, and I'm going to go into red. And now I'm going to just go over here where I had the water again. I'm going to try to stay as close to the line, but not necessarily on the line at this point. We'll use the point of our brush later. It's nice if you have a brush that has somewhat of a point. That does help. So the size is nice, but the point in the long run is nicer. All right, we're going to let that, I'm going to clean the brush out, dry it just a little, and put some more water in there and kind of let it start working. You can see how it's kind of spreading into each other, okay? Clean your brush again, dry it off this time, and get some orange. I'm going to make this one orange. And you say, well, won't the red become orange with the yellow? Well, it kind of does, but we're going to make it a very bright orange. I'm not going to go into this part. I want that to be yellow. All right, so she's pretty wet yet, and that's what we want. I want you to clean your brush out, tap it somewhat dry, not completely, and now we're going to start to force this colors into those points a little bit. Now, when it's good and wet, you can really see how, did you see how the water moved there? You can see here how it's getting darker along that edge, and that's great. You're just going to want to push that darker so it gets darker along the line to your point. And just kind of slowly push your color out to wherever your lines are. Or where you think they are if you erased it too much. I've done that too. They call a tide line, I don't see one right now yet, where when it starts to dry, it gives a, I'm kind of looking for one. There's not one there at this point yet, so that makes me happy. We're going to do the same thing. You're going to notice I didn't clean my brush. You can wipe it if you want. You don't want this much red. I'm going to keep it more orange. You can. You can also go back and get some more orange if you want. And I am going to do that. Now, what I want to show you here is I put this orange on kind of thick, so I'm going to get a little water in my brush, and I'm just going to make it kind of bleed into each other there again. Because I want it to kind of mix. I want it to kind of try to go into each other. Probably get a little more red in a minute there. I want to get my orange pushed out to my corners so it's darker around the outside and meet all my spots. I'm going to clean my brush because I want that spot yellow. And it's pretty heavy here, and I'm going to go around. Kind of work the yellow into the red. I'm thinking, you know, this one should have more red. I'm going to clean my brush off, dry it up a little bit, and I'm going to make the red pigment a little bit heavier because the picture's really wet already, so you don't need to have it be real sloppy, and we can add some more red. You want that. Another thing I might do, I might come over here and just put some red by that orange because the tips are getting, maybe I don't feel like this one's bright enough. Might add a little more there. I always like to add it in the curves. And I don't want it to have these lines like they have. So I'm going to clean my brush and I'm going to dry it. And then I'm going to kind of mat at it, or kind of play with it so that it loses some of that line. So it kind of gets it blends down in more. If you feel like you still want more red over here, get some more red. If it feels too dry, add some water. I kind of want it to have a look where it's, I like dabbing the red and getting it in spots. Might even add it a little bit on this yellow. That one definitely has too much of a line to suit me. So I'll come back with a clean brush that's just damp and let that try to work its way out. You move it however you like to see it, okay? It's just important that you push the edges so that you get the edges there. That is your first leaf. That needs completely dry. Once that's completely dry, you can do the same process on, I did yellow. I would not put the paint right next to your red because it will bleed out until it's almost dry where you start to push like we did with these. Then you can push it. Then you can do the oak. Once it's dry, once it's dry, once it's dry. Once they're all dry, we'll do the veins. I don't think I have one that's not done right now to do for you. I don't. You don't want to do it while they're wet because you're just gonna, I'm gonna show you what happens if you do it when it's wet. So my veins on this one would be red. I'm gonna take a smaller brush, a finer brush. And because it's this wet, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna follow those lines and gotta get paint on it. It's just gonna start to melt. Now, there are some things about it that's okay if it does that, because if you really look at the leaf, it kind of does it anyway. But if it's too wet, it's just gonna kind of get lost, I think, myself. But you just wanna go up the lines you drew for sure, as fine as you dare do. And then we'll come back and we'll add those other ones. I think we went from this one up here. My red's getting a little dry. This one went up here. Up to that point, maybe up here. A few spots, this is a little wet yet. I can see it's spidering on me. And that's why I would wait for it to be drier. But you can add your veins wherever you feel like. Maybe you just want to play around, look at a leaf. And when it's completely dry, this is what it's going to look like. I can take my thankful off here for you. Maybe. Guess not, I got too many stickies under there. I have little sticky things that I put the words on later. You can splatter it if you want right now while it's damp as well. If you have your red kind of wet, and you're going to want to do this carefully because you don't want it all through the yellow, if you can help it. You can just come in where the red will be. Get some red where the yellow is. You can, a little easier down there because there's not another, like so. The other thing on the maple leaf, he's the only one that's going to have a stem. You're going to want to take a little brown and give him a little stem. Okay? So that is the first painting lesson I'm offering, and it's called Leaves, and I will try to do part 2 and 3 on the other 2 leaves when this dries, and you can see it even more detail. Thank you so much. Leave me some questions, and have a great Monday.